Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Fiorletta, Senior Editor of Retail Touchpoints, and I have joining me Chris Bishop, who is the founder and CEO of Seven Things Media. Chris, thanks so much for taking the time.
Not a problem.
So we're here at the FD Mobile Summit. Obviously, a lot of conversations around the role that mobile plays in the customer experience, the new opportunities for retailers, and obviously areas for improvement. Before we dive into that, why don't you share a little bit about what your organization does and obviously how you're helping brands and retailers?
Sure. So we're Seven Things Media. We're a digital media agency. Our headquarters are London. We have offices here in New York and Singapore. And ultimately what we do is digital consultancy, media planning and execution. So whether that be across affiliate, display, mobile, PPC, SEO and increasingly social. And ultimately it's helping brands thinking for them, and then executing the subsequent campaigns.
Got it. And you have quite a substantial history in the retail industry, right?
Yeah, so my background is I've worked client side before founding the agency at a chocolate company called Hotel Chocolat. And then also helping House of Fraser set up their e-com when they launched, 8-9 years ago. And then founding the agency, and we're lucky enough to represent a great list of retail brands.
Oh, that's excellent. So you've really been entrenched in the retail industry. During this whirlwind, it seems, of change and advancement, in terms of the technology available, how retailers are selling to consumers, and obviously how they connect with consumers. That kind of ties into, your agency work today.
Sure.
To that end, what do you think are really the key challenges that retailers are facing today, especially in regards to mobile, since that seems to be, the big the big pot of gold, so to speak, that everyone's kind of reaching for?
Yeah, the key challenges for brands is to still understand the reason for being, and what is the then kind of raison d'etre within retail, within digital. There's a lot of hype, a lot of talk about multi-channel, omni-channel. It's been mentioned.
A lot of buzzwords, right?
Buzzwords, yeah, have been mentioned a hell of a lot today. And I think it's for brands just to keep on point, understand what it is they're doing. There's a ton of things that brands can do, and they need to use agencies such as Seven Things Media or work it out themselves at what is right for them. There's a lot of people that will push agendas, and I think for them it's all still relatively new. We're here today at an event. The iPhone only launched 2007. The first tweet was only sent then. So I think these brands, it's understanding the core message, the product, and the right audience. And the right way for them to connect to that consumer in an ever-increasing world of complexity.
Absolutely, and it seems like, based on the content of the show today, there's a lot of arguments or battles that we're trying to debunk, right? Like mobile optimized web versus app, or what's the best way to engage on social. I feel like there are so many hot button topics that rather than just testing the waters and seeing what consumers how they respond or what resonates with them, it's just a lot of fights around, okay, well, what should we invest in and how much and what's the timeline look like. It seems like the organizational obstacles are kind of preventing retailers from just diving in and seeing what works.
Yeah, I think again, what we've got to understand is that the commercial web is probably 15 years old. And I think, a lot of people want an answer play sheet. How much should I invest in this? How much should I invest in that? And the reality is there isn't one. You've got to do a bunch of testing, learning and evolving, from that. Some brands have just finally got a website that they're happy with, and now they need an app. But then, do they need an app? So in the session that I hosted, that was the first question, and there wasn't necessarily a clear answer.
Right.
Should brands have an app or use a responsive, web platform? And the reality is, it's not a politician's answer. It just is very dependent upon what it is you guys or the brand specific do. So brands have to be brave, have to understand what the industry is doing, but not just be blind to look at directly what their competitors are doing. To look, cross sector, and see, and ultimately, and we tried to push on that in our panel. What are your customers doing? It's irrelevant what your trade press want you to put in or what your technical agency want you to spend money on. Try and get into the sight of what your consumers are doing and put yourself back in that step. Someone spoke today about actually trying to buy insurance on a mobile product.
Right.
So actually, again, put your, it's customer centric. Your marketing strategy should always be that way, irrelevant of what channel. Mobile is just another channel, as your stores are. It's making sure that your product and your branding is the hero, irrelevant of how that customer finds you.
Right, because at the end of the day, consumers have access to so many different touch points, so many different resources, that they're really kind of navigating the whole journey now. They're making the decisions.
I think that was certainly the point on where we are in a kind of push and pull scenario, and I think certainly I've been in this industry long enough where we've talked about the year of the mobile. And the year of mobile came when consumers got it, and consumers are then driving that through. And it, certainly ain't the marketeers. I think we're now trying as best as we can to understand where our consumers are hanging out, and then making sure our appropriate message is there. But yeah, the consumer is driving that, and that consumer, is certainly getting younger from those that are, being born online or being born with the technology. I have a 3-year-old niece that thinks a magazine's not working when she tries to pinch it or tries to move it. And I'm so upset because I loved magazines and books as a child, and she will never experience that because Daddy's iPad doesn't work. So he's in a heap of trouble. She has more technology as a 3-year-old than I had as a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
crazy.
Absolutely. It definitely is the new reality. So, just based on your knowledge, what you're seeing, obviously based on your conversations with brands and retailers, what do you think is really next, on the horizon from a trend standpoint, but also from an adoption and maturation standpoint, right? Because we're so early, I feel like, in the mobile journey especially.
Yeah, I think the key that we're seeing and the trends, I think, is the realigning of objectives or KPIs. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of brands saw the web 10, 15 years ago as, the way to print money, or a way, growth. You're always going to get year-on-year growth. So let's just keep investing and continue to yield. And I think more objectives are becoming a lot more, pragmatic, and they're getting a lot more broader than just traffic and sales. And I think the more everybody in the industry realises, wider metrics that make sense, the more in which we can invest in digital, because it's still heavily under invested from both an education but actual execution, then we can really reap the benefits of that.
Absolutely, Chris. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat with us. It was great. Learn a little bit more about what you do and obviously what's to come from an advertising and digital engagement standpoint.
Sure.
So thank you so much for taking the time. And thanks everyone out there for joining us.